All right, thank you so much for returning to Anthracite Horror Stories. And tonight we're going to cover this cool little piece of rare Americana. This is a 1931 promotional brochure that the Delaware and Hudson Coal Company, also known as Hudson Coal, would hand out to coal dealers and thus hand out to consumers. This was never made to survive until 2023. And this was printed during the height of the Depression. Great Depression. So times are extremely tough. So I assume they were putting this out to the public because they were fighting for every nickel of the anthracite market from competitors such as Pennsylvania Coal Company, Lehigh Valley Coal Company, Reading Anthracite, etc., etc. So we'll have a look through this. It's in mint condition, utterly mint condition. Such a rare, cool item. So instead of me just keeping all this stuff in my desk or wherever, I want to share this with the public because this stuff should be remembered. And the fact that it, again, has survived until 2023 is just remarkable. So I have a bunch of D&H and Hudson Coal Company memorabilia. I really like the D&H Coal Company because it was the company that I first explored its abandoned mine workings. I'm not going to give out the location of the mine name because I don't want anyone going into that mine. But back in 2004, the Hudson Coal Company formerly was the first mine that I ever explored, and they had a bunch of mines, tons of them, but this D&H mine will always be near and dear to my heart because it really started my hobby in earnest. These are just eBay signs, American made. I think I spent like $18 a piece for them. Can't beat that. And here's a brochure from the 40s that will also dissect. My grandfather, Ted O'Donnell, he was yardmaster in Plains Township, my hometown, and right behind present-day Mohegan Sun, there was a small yard for the D&H Railroad. And from like 1946 or 1947 up until, I think, 1976, when he retired, he worked for the D&H. So it's just a special coal company and railroad to myself, again, because it's the first coal company that had the privilege of exploring its old mine workings. And because my grandfather and uncle worked for that railroad. So we'll dive right into this. Mining and preparation of anthracite, the field supreme. The Hudson Coal Company, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Again, they were just trying to stand out from the competition by making this brochure. Main office building, Scranton, Pennsylvania. A gorgeous castle-like building. But yeah, it costs a lot of money. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears went into building that gorgeous building. 1931. Huh, Great Britain. Printed. That's interesting. So, if you're interested in reading this portion, just pause it. Sorry for jerking the camera there. And again, just pause that and read it. Marvine Breaker. I think I'm saying that right. 6,000 tons of D&H cone-cleaned anthracite. Laughlin Breaker. One of the first cone cleaning plants in the anthracite region. Now, if you're familiar with Casey Casa Anthracite, they still actively strip anthracite coal. and they sell it at their facility in Laughlin, right in the Laughlin Plains border, right across the road. So it would be on right over here, present day. There's a road separating here. There is a small coal pocket building where you can buy anthracite for home heating. So the remnants of this coal breaker sit across the street. And as of a few years ago, there was like coal crushers there. There was even old school wooden coal cars there. It's really neat. There's just a whole array of abandoned equipment. And I asked the gentleman, who I assume was the owner, if I could take a look at that kind of stuff and photograph it. And he said, yeah. So the remnants of that breaker are still kind of there. I think it's been cleaned out, though, unfortunately, since. Lorry breaker. 6,000 tons of D&H anthracite per day. 150 railroad carloads. So this was in Larksville. There's the breaker. Here's the shaft head frame. And this had a super sketchy cap on it as of like 2008 or 9. It's just a small thin piece of metal, and they've subsequently capped it with concrete. They didn't backfill the shaft, but they put a proper cap on it. This was the powerhouse that powered the breaker and the underground operations. All of the collieries powered their own mine, in a sense, through the coal that they mined, and then they would prepare it at the breaker, and then they would have their own powerhouse where they would burn it in boilers and thus complete the circle of life in the coal mine. They were burning their own product, thus creating their own electricity. I love Larksville and Plymouth. Powderly breaker. Pine Ridge breaker. My best friend, his grandfather, and I believe his great-grandfather worked at Pine Ridge, and his great-grandfather, I believe, was seriously wounded. Half of his face was blown up pretty bad from a blasting accident that occurred underground in Pine Ridge. Elephant breaker. Coal Brook breaker. Gravity slope breaker. So here it just gets right into the process of mining anthracite. Miner drilling hole. These holes receive the charge of explosives used in blasting D&H anthracite from the vein. So he's at the face, cranking that thing by hand. Result of blast. D&H anthracite at the start of its long journey from working face to the consumer's coal bins. So if this was a war zone, this would be equivalent to the very front line. It's all coal. Hand loading of mine car. Mine cars are loaded either mechanically or by hand. Each car of D&H anthracite taken out leaves an additional space of nearly 100 cubic feet to be ventilated, an ever-increasing area from which water must be drained and pumped. Mechanical loading. The scraper is drawn back and forth through the working chamber by suitably located steel cables and pulleys, and the D&H anthracite, after blasting, is thus transferred to mine cars. I've seen a number of these mechanical loaders underground. Pretty cool to see underground. So here is the cone cleaning process. And look at that old industrial artwork. So this just separated the waste rocks such as slate and sandstone and whatever from the coal. Pieces of timbers, metal. They just wanted a good product going out to market. So again, you can pause if you want to read that. And these were ink blotters, real quick. Ink blotters were from the old school era when they would dip their pen into ink before they had ballpoint pens, and they would have excessive ink on the pen itself, and This is pretty smooth paper, cardboard in a sense. But on this side, it's very absorbent. It feels really cool. It soaks it right up, soaks ink up. So you'd have all that excessive ink on your pen, and you would just go like that to get it off, and it would soak it right off of your pen, kind of like a diaper. It's a weird analogy, but it's absorbent like a diaper. And then they would run their advertisements as to why their coal was the best type of coal. And here they keep talking about their cone cleaning process. You can pause if you want to read this. I really like these ink blotters. You could get these on eBay if you're interested. There's the guys polishing up the piece of anthracite coal. So cool, so neat. Breaker. Very 1930s artwork. 1940s also. Plattsburgh. Mechanical loading crew, showing mining machine for undercutting D&H anthracite. This machine is used in thin veins and permits the application of modern mining methods. Anthracite coal is a hard coal to mine, primarily due to the steep pitch of the coal, as the coal would go up into the mountains, down in the valleys here in the Wyoming Valley and Scranton areas. It was relatively flat, but once up in the mountains, it became steep pitch. So the steep pitch stuff had to be mined by hand. So it's not kind to mechanization. Coal conveyor belt. One of the longest belt lines in the world, transporting D&H anthracite from the shaft across the river to the breaker. Don't know what colliery that was. Let me know if you do know. The main haulage, illustrating the tremendous amount of timber necessary to support the roof. Over 11 million lineal feet used per year by the Hudson Coal Company. That's amazing. That's just one coal company. 11 million lineal feet. Wow. Fire boss testing miners' working place. Where gas exists in a mine in dangerous quantities, the miners are not permitted to enter their chambers until conditions are corrected. And he's testing for methane. Methane resides higher in the mine chamber because it's lighter than air. And black damp hangs low. And methane is explosive because it's also known as natural gas. Shaker screens for sizing anthracite. The uniform sizing of D&H cone clean anthracite is assured by the use of more than 30,000 square feet of screening surface. Each deck of the shaker screens out a definite size of anthracite. So they were metal screens with a predetermined hole drilled through it. And these screens would shake back and forth like this. And the coal would go over the screens, and if it was big enough to fall through the hole, it would. And that's how they sized the coal. Very simplistic, but very smart engineering. Underground mule barn. The mules are comfortably housed underground. The barns are illuminated electrically and are well ventilated. The animals are under careful supervision of company veterinarians at all times. Veterinarian, I'm sorry, singular, not plural. And I do have a video on here showing a mule barn underground and what it looked like. And in the future, I will share a few other mines that I've found mule barns in. It's pretty cool. You can see the lights. There's the head of a mule, the butt, the entrance. Old school Western Electric mine phone. Neat. Inspection. Each railroad carload of D&H anthracite undergoes a rigid inspection before being forwarded to market. This inspection ensures a uniform product as to size and quality. I mean, did they really test every single carload. Oh my God. You would get black lung from that. You really would. Agitating just a bucket of coal over and over again, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. You would get black lung, even though you never step foot underground. There's breaker screens, what I was talking about with the piece of metal with holes in it, which would size the coal. There's a big size coal. There's a more fine one. Some over there too. Underground pump rooms. One of the largest underground pump rooms in the world at the German colliery of the Hudson Coal Company. Capacity 40,000 gallons per minute. And this is definitely underwater now. So this was in the mine, deep underground itself. Look at those pumps. I can guarantee that this is forever flooded. Wow. And a lot of these pumps had a lot of brass on them. So somewhere in Germany, there's a lot of brass that's flooded. Many tens of thousands of dollars worth. When they turned off the pumps, obviously the aquifer would rise again and forever flood those workings. And now here they just talk about the electric transportation underground. Surface transportation. That's cool because that's a small, narrow gauge steam locomotive. Most likely a Vulcan Ironworks, Wilkes-Barre manufactured steam engine. And they're just hauling small coal cars. Underground transportation, showing the meals. Box car loader. That's cool. That's wild. I don't know anything about that. I guess they were filling up box cars full of coal. Electrical generator. One of our several units generating power for the use of mines and breakers located at Oliphant and feeding into the Hudson Coal Company's high-tension transmission line, which is over 50 miles in length. Neat. The electrical power plant. Asbestos. This would be above ground. Coal storage, D&H Anthracite and Storage. And they would store coal. Do you know why they would store coal? Because of labor unrest. And also an attempt to control pricing. So they were constantly worried about striking miners. So they would stockpile coal. Look at those mountains. That is not coal. That's pure anthracite coal. Weighing anthracite for shipment to market. Improved type scales for weighing D&H anthracite. Capacity 150 tons. So that would be $600,000 worth of coal in today's market per scale load. Cool. So again, you could pause that if you want to read that. It's like brand new. It's like it just rolled off the printing press. It's amazing. So this is a more modern one from the 40s. See the mining and preparation of D&H anthracite, the clean super fuel that keeps over 4 million persons warm. Be a guest of the Hudson Coal Company, Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I guess if you just showed up, they would give you a tour. And if I could just go back in time. I'd love to take that tour. Although I've taken that tour many times underground myself. Via the abandoned workings. LOL. Unofficial tour. You know? Alright, so let's just start. I'll actually read this one out. The celebrated D&H cone-clean anthracite at the start of its long journey from the rich underground deposits to the consumer's coal bins. So they're just recycling this material from that pamphlet. Own and operate 14 collieries and produce roughly 12% of the total anthracite sold. Approximately 20,000 men are employed, 2/3 of whom work underground. The yearly production of the celebrated D&H anthracite is about 250,000 railroad cars. dear God, which if made into a single train would reach from New York City to Denver, Colorado. The yearly excavation underground is equivalent to a tunnel 8 feet high, 20 feet wide, and over 400 miles long. Oh my gosh, just every single year. 8 feet high, 20 feet wide, 400 miles long. Wages paid each year by this company amounts to nearly $35 million. Transportation. There are underground in our mines more than 650 miles of railroad track on which operate 375 electric locomotives and 1,200 mules. Each day this railroad moves more than 45,000 tons of material from 5,000 stations. Miners' chambers. Water. Our company pumps approximately 10 tons of water per ton of coal, or 80 to 90 million tons of water per year. However, in order to take care of this rainy season in the spring, it is necessary to have a pumping capacity of 311 million and some change tons per year. Expressed in another way, the pumps of our company alone are sufficient to furnish the water supply of Boston, Worcester, Springfield, Massachusetts, Albany, Schenectady, Utica, oh my God, and all those cities in New York. Just show you these photos. Here's a map. So there's the Marvine Colliery. So I guess if you showed up there, there's where they give you a tour. Nice. Oh, I love that. I would so show up. Be like, I want my tour. The visitor is then taken through the various buildings of the surface and finally through the $2.5 million breaker where he observes anthracite in the process of preparation. Time required for this very interesting and educational trip is approximately 1 hour. Coats and overshoes are provided for the ladies and caps for men. No dust or grease will be encountered until soiled your clothing. Comfortable waiting room is also provided of the party who do not care to take the trip. Nice. Providence section. So obviously I read that out of order, unfortunately. So we'll jump back in talking about the tour first. See, the actual mining of D&H anthracite, the chief industry of Scranton and the surrounding region, is the production of anthracite. Visitors and tourists are invariably interested in a trip through the mines and breakers. In order to anticipate the many requests for permission to inspect their properties, the Hudson Coal Company has opened Marvine Colliery to the public. Guides are furnished for free. The trip consists of going underground, whoa, and seeing the actual mining of anthracite. Methods of ventilation, drainage, roof support, etc. are explained by competent guides. Oh my God. I would lose my mind. My poor wife would want to wait in the car. My son would come. He would get bored pretty quick too, but wow, that's just amazing. Ventilation. It takes 5 million cubic feet of air per minute to ventilate our operations, or 9 tons of air per 1 ton of coal. Preparation. The raw material from the mines undergoes an extensive manufacturing process or preparation before shipment to the retail dealer. A modern breaker manufacturing plant, which crushes, sizes, and cleans anthracite costs approximately $2.5 million per year. $2.5 million a year they spent in breaker costs. So here's the cone cleaning process. Coal feeds into the cone. It's agitated. There's sand and water, and they had it dialed in just right. The combination of sand to water. And it just worked its magic. So the coal would just float right off the top. All the other stuff would fall down. Neat. Cone cleaning. This amazing new process for cleaning coal is the most modern, most effective, and most reliable process ever devised. Briefly, cone cleaning refers to a process in which coal actually floats on top of a mixture of sand and water contained in huge metal cones, while the impurities sink to the bottom and are discarded. Just as simple as separating wood from stone, yet remarkable scientific discovery. Cost of anthracite. Taking figures from the cost of living in the United States compiled and published by the National Industrial Conference Board, we find that 1 hour of labor in the textile industry will purchase 40.5% more anthracite than it would in 1914. In the chemical industry, 1 hour of labor will purchase 20.4% more anthracite than it would in 1914. Likewise, in the leather industry, blah, blah, blah. The anthracite is cheaper today in comparison with wages. This is entirely due to the advance made in mining and preparation within recent years. That is not true today. Coal went from $220 a ton last year to over $400 a ton now due to rising diesel costs, strip mining operations, etc., and the war on fossil fuels, all by design. So again, sorry if that was a little dry and boring, but this is just cool little Americana pamphlets that you won't see anywhere else. If you want some of this stuff for yourself, always look on eBay. eBay. It's the way to go. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you thought of it. And be sure to check out my other material. Have a good evening. Thank you so much. See ya.